It's a disease that takes tens of thousands of lives each year. Cancer.
While there are many different types, colorectal cancer is the third leading cause of cancer-related deaths in men and the fourth leading cause in women. The American Cancer Society estimates in 2026, more than 55,000 people will die from the disease.
Now, we want to talk about survival and the medical advances that are lengthening lifespans each year.
Reporter Viv Williams shares one man's inspiring story.
The man you're about to meet was diagnosed with colon cancer that had spread to his liver, a situation the American Cancer Society says happens in about 20% of all people diagnosed with colon cancer. If the cancer is limited to one area of the liver, surgery to remove it may be an option. But if the cancer is in more than one location in the liver, treatment options are limited, less effective, and prognosis is often poor. But thanks to a breakthrough treatment, this man got a second chance at life.
Everybody set, go. Here we go, push, 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 push.
High school football coach Shannon Jones would rather be on the field working with kids than just about anywhere else.
Push it, push it, push it.
I'd always had to love football.
Finish out, let's go.
But several years ago, Jones couldn't keep up at practices.
There you go.
I got to where I would have to stop and sit down. I was out of energy.
It was colon cancer. And worse, Jones' doctor told him it had spread to his liver. He began treatment immediately with surgery to remove part of his colon and other treatments, including chemotherapy and radiation. But because the disease had spread to both sides of his liver, Jones' chances for long-term survival were low.
The 5-year survival for those patients is actually only 9%. Even if they undergo systemic chemotherapy.
It was difficult. It was hard to push through sometimes. I always felt like there was something bigger in it and that it was leading to something and that I just couldn't quit. And you had to keep on.
His family and his love of coaching kept Jones going.
What I always tell people is you got to keep on keeping on.
Jones' treatments were working to kill the cancer, but they were also damaging his liver, making him very sick. When his hometown doctor explained the situation,
I told him I want to have a transplant. He said, you'll never have a liver transplant. That nobody does that for cancer. When you have cancer in your liver, you can't do that. And I said, I'm going to. And I remember him saying, no, you're not. I said, watch.
Jones traveled for a second opinion from Dr. Denise Harnoy, a Mayo Clinic transplant liver specialist.
One of the fields of transplantation that's really been expanding is what we would call transplant oncology.
According to Harnoy, until recently, liver transplantation for colon cancer that spread to the liver was not an option for several reasons. One being the risk of cancer cells spreading throughout the body, making the likelihood of recurrence in a newly transplanted liver high. This is particularly dangerous because people who have transplants take medication to suppress their immune systems so their bodies don't reject their new organ. Cancer cells can erupt in that environment.
When transplants were done, they very frequently developed recurrence of disease, and often very quickly after the transplant was done.
But thanks to advances in chemotherapy and other treatments that prevent colon cancer cells from migrating around the body, Mayo Clinic and a few other centers now perform liver transplants for highly selected colon cancer patients.
For those patients who have disease in the liver, it's not outside of the liver at all. It's not in the lymph nodes. It's not gone to the lungs or other organs. And their colon cancer itself has been treated, then now transplantation represents an option for those patients.
Jones went through a month of testing at Mayo to find out if he was a transplant candidate. After getting the okay, he began the wait for a donor liver to become available.
It was just one miracle after another that worked out for me.
Jones received the first liver transplant for metastatic colon cancer ever performed at Mayo Clinic.
I knew that it was going to open the door for a lot of other people, and it was going to probably change the way colon cancer was treated forever.
All the way through. Come on. Don't quit now.
Now, he's back on the field
Fast. That's it.
and has been cancer-free for 2 years.
We need to talk to her.
Jones looks back with gratitude for the medical team that cared for him and the inspirations that made the fight worth it.
Football and baseball and my young kids at home, that's what kind of kept me going.
Both Jones and Dr. Harnoy say the real heroes are the organ donors and their families.
The organ donation is a critical piece of that puzzle.
To anybody that's not a donor or thinking about being a donor, please, that's a selfless gift.
Jones' doctor says liver transplantation is not an option for all colon cancer patients. She encourages patients to ask their care team about the possibility to make sure they consider all options for treatment.